Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our instantly after the episode reaction review crying of The Last of Us Season 2. This is episode 7. This one's called Convergence. Spoilers ahead for our discussion before we get to all of that. We missed episode 7 last week because we decided to have... Episode 6 last week because we decided to have a family barbecue. While we had a chance before we move.
Yep.
And so we prioritized our family. Maybe Abby should... Wait, no, she's kind of prioritized her family a couple of times.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about last week and the mechanism in which they did the episode, which was going back and doing a flashback episode of telling how Joel and Abby had their falling out.
Right.
But using the birthdays as the passage of time and showing the capsule, the space capsule and the dinosaur and doing all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it also kind of, for those of us that didn't play the game that, don't kind of know the, not really the backstory, but in between the end of the season 1 and the beginning of season 2, like what happened, it also adds some. It makes his death even worse.
Yep.
It adds some emotion.
Yep.
To all that.
Yeah. I will get into the discord around the show later, but specifically telling the porch scene where Ellie confronts Joel about what Joel did to save her, and him finally coming clean. I think if he had come clean sooner, it wouldn't have festered and built up and be as bad.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That particular scene is the last scene of the game. You do everything else, and then you come back to that scene.
Right.
So them telling it here puts a nice bow on Pedro's portrayal of Joel. Mm-hmm. It also gives emotional stakes for everything that Abby does in this episode because she...
Ellie does.
Huh?
Ellie.
Ellie has the emotional stakes, and she tells Dina about why she's kind of on this mission to kill Abby. So I love that they did that. Some people bumped up against that, but not like in a I can't believe they did it this way. It was more of there's been a lot of discord about the creators of the show not understanding the meaning behind the game. That was the same face I made.
The creators of the show is one of them is the guy that wrote the game. So what is that even?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason the thing that I've been butting up against what people have been saying is that the meaning of the game, the actions and things that Ellie does in the game are all predicated on violence and love and everything. Mm-hmm. And that this iteration, because Bella Ramsey is playing Ellie very differently than what Ashley did, even though they have a lot of similar mannerisms and they're doing a lot of beat-to-beat scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is there's this much more of an emotion coming from Bella and their portrayal than what we get from Ellie in the game 2.
Okay.
And I appreciate that because the rage that Ellie has is hugely important for the reason you play the game. To go through that rage. But we're going through the same kind of rage, but presented in a slightly different factor when you've had an opportunity to go back around, i.e. Neil and Haley. Haley, talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Haley Gross, who helped write the second game with Neil, they're having another chance to go back and explore some of the things they just couldn't do in the game.
Right.
And so I've been really buttoned up against some people saying that they're missing the point of this story. Because they presented everything the way they did in the last episode, I think pulls the Band-Aid off the rest of the way for people. Either you're on board with this show and the way they're telling the same story, slightly different.
Yeah.
Either you're on board here or you're not.
Right.
And Neil has talked about this. Haley has talked about this. Craig has talked about this. Troy Baker has talked about this. Ashley has talked about this. Bella has talked about this. Yes, they care about what the fans are feeling, but maybe not necessarily what they're saying. They want fans to feel anger with Ellie.
Yeah.
They want anger. They want them to be mad at Abby. They want you to be upset with Joel and his decision.
Yeah.
They want that. They want you to feel something.
Right.
And so I just love that they did everything that they did in that last episode.
Yeah.
And Pedro's going to get an Emmy nomination just for that porch scene. Like, period.
He better. I mean, we've talked about this in our reviews of the show before. This is not a video game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can't, try watching someone play a video game.
Yeah.
You're not playing it. They're playing it. And you're just watching.
Yeah.
Not super interesting. Might be a little interesting, but not super interesting.
Yeah.
Not however many millions of people HBO has watching this show.
Right.
Interesting. So you have to change things. You have to change the perspective. It's different when you are, you have your headphones on and you're playing and you are immersed in your gameplay because you're moving your character around and stuff, and a show where you are not an active participant. You're just
a third-party watcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they talked about that with Jesse in this episode about because you play as Ellie or Abby in the second game, you don't get to spend as much time with Jesse,
right,
as they would like to have done in this, because they have to do gameplay and move forward and do all that kind of stuff.
Unless they're going to let you play as Jesse and they're already.
And it totally would have been cool if they would have spent some time with Jesse. But then the game becomes 150 hours of gameplay, and that great value. But Last of Us 2 was pushed like 3 times over 4 years to make sure it was right. And it just, the game at some point in time becomes No Man's Sky, and you have no way of actually ever getting all the way through it. It doesn't happen. So let's talk about this episode. The last episode ends with Ellie going back to the theater. And this one starts with Jesse taking the arrow out of Dina's leg.
Yep.
And it puts Dina kind of on the shelf, which is kind of where she is from day 3 in Seattle moving forward in the gameplay. She's kind of the man in the chair with the map, kind of helping everybody, kind of it takes her off the board a little bit. In the game, they take her off the board because she's pregnant. She's pregnant in the show, but here they shot her in the leg, and that kind of helps take her off the board. Most of what this episode is, most of the first half of this episode, is Ellie and Jesse just trying to work it out.
Yeah.
In my point of view.
Yeah. It's catching Jesse up with what has transpired since they left.
Yeah.
Which is the two of them have hooked up and Dina's pregnant. And, him kind of just explaining to Ellie that he wasn't who she thought that he was one of the votes.
Yeah.
And she said to him, if you'd only gotten 3 more votes, then we would have had more people or whatever. And he was like, I didn't vote. Yeah. And so them just kind of coming to an understanding of, well, mostly an understanding of where they each are,
Yeah.
because they might be friends, maybe. Not
They're,
sure.
no, they're friends.
Yeah,
They're proper
well,
friends.
right, but
There's friction there right now.
there's friction. That's fair.
Yeah.
But they are not on the same side. And I think Ellie thought that they were on the same side.
Yeah.
And they've kind of, Jesse kind of, no, we're not on the same side. I am about, now she does put him in his place, with the whole, because he's like, I'm all about the community.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, my community was beat to death in front of my eyes. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that either one of them was right or wrong at the end of that conversation.
And that's what a lot of the show has been about. Like, there is no definitive black or white answer.
Yeah, and they talk about that in the after show.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh, Ellie's right. No, Ellie's wrong. Abby's right. Abby's wrong.
Jesse's right.
Jesse's
wrong.
Right. Jesse's wrong.
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
Isaac.
Isaac's right, wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's no, which, and maybe what people don't, are having a hard time with, because it doesn't give you a warm fuzzy.
Yeah.
There's no, it's real. Like, real life isn't like that. Like,
Craig and Neil have talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
Is that this is much more real life than it actually is storytelling.
Yeah.
There is no
happily ever after.
nice little bow
Yeah.
on it when everything happens.
Yeah.
Like, there just isn't.
Yeah.
And there's frayed you could still wrap it up in a bow, but there's still frayed edges on it.
Yeah.
It's never going to be the same after whatever thing it is that you experience.
Right.
And I really appreciate, that's one of the reasons why The Last of Us storytelling is so intriguing to me, is because there is no good guy, bad guy, red hat, white hat, black hat. Those guys over there are the worst thing ever, but I'm doing the same thing they are, like,
Right.
to keep myself, my family, my community safe. And that's why I love this storytelling, and that's why I think you're right. I think there is a lot of just butting up with that kind of storytelling, because it's just not something we typically see in storytelling.
Yeah.
We don't typically see this idea of it has to be black and white as an answer, and there has to be a happy ending, or there has to be a sad ending.
Right. Right. Or just, I think it's making people feels that they aren't comfortable with feeling.
Yeah. I think that some of the backlash that they got about Game of Thrones was much the same thing.
Yeah.
With Daenerys, is that you rooted for her for 6 seasons.
You named your baby after her.
And then she burns King's Landing down.
Yeah.
She was like that the entire time. And so they are doing, Dan and Dave were doing the same similar kind of storytelling with this. There is no right or wrong answer. There is no, like, how do you handle tragedy in your life? How do you handle being the victim? How do you handle having somebody that you love taken from you? How do you handle all that? Especially when, like, in Ellie's point of view, she came into the world screaming and yelling and fighting. And then the person who actually raises her is a very violent person. And so her idea of love, or conveying love, or being there for her friends, is through violence.
Yeah.
And so who is going to be the one that breaks the cycle? Ellie had every opportunity when she figures out that that Abby was at the whale at the aquarium.
Right.
I've been waiting for that stupid Ferris wheel to show up for 5 episodes since I got into Seattle. But the idea that they that Ellie had the opportunity, after getting washed ashore on Scar Island, and the Seraphites get her, and they're going to hang her up and kill her. They have never asked her a question. and then she only gets saved because of Isaac and the wolves attacking the village.
Yep.
She has the opportunity right there to get back in the boat and go back
Yeah.
and help Joel or help Jesse and Tommy, and she doesn't. She is so blinded by everything that's going on that she finds Owen and Mel, and kills them, one on purpose, one on accident, but Mel is pregnant.
Yeah.
And Mel tries to get her to do a C-section on her, and Ellie doesn't, can't, won't.
No, I think she would. She wanted to. She was going to. She just didn't. Like, this wasn't. That's not something she's ever had to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, she's like,
And it's the first time really that she gets slapped in the face with her consequences of her actions.
Yeah.
This is the first time she really gets slapped in the face.
yeah, because it would have been easy to have written Joel and Mel's deaths off.
Owen and Mel's.
Or sorry, Owen. One to
Shut up.
Owen and Mel's deaths up to, you know, they were there, they helped,
Yeah.
they deserved it.
Yeah.
But the baby wasn't there.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and so that was
They talked about collateral damage
Yeah.
finally.
yeah.
And in the after show, talking about Abby finally sees the collateral damage of violence, and we can have the conversation. Was she justified what she did to Nora last episode, where she tortured her and then left her to be one with the spores, and her telling Dina when she got back that, like, I thought it would be harder than what it was.
Yeah.
It was very easy. Like, it was still not coming to her.
Yeah.
And then when she got a respite from the Seraphites, it still didn't come to her. And even when she killed Owen and Mel and didn't save the baby, it still didn't quite get all the way there. And then her and Jesse have the kind of, you know, thank you for coming for me.
Yeah.
And Jesse saying you would have burned down everything to save me. And then they run in because Abby's there. And I love that they did that exactly the way they do it in the game.
Did they?
They go running through the door. Jesse's the first one through the door and gets shot in the face. And it's unceremonious. It's glossed over. It's because now Abby and Ellie are face to face. And so there's a moment where Ellie looks over at Jesse and the bullet hole in his face, both in the game and here in the show. But it has, I think, a little bit more weight now because we spent the time with Jesse.
Yes. Yep.
I want to talk about Ellie telling Dina that her and Joel had the conversation on the porch, and that she actually, Ellie tells Dina about what Joel actually did.
Right.
She never knew what Joel did. And it's played so well by my new crush, and Isabella Marcet. She pulls away from Ellie when she tells them
Yeah.
that Joel did what he did.
Yeah. And that she knew. Because it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't Ellie's fault that Joel did what he did.
Yeah.
But then to say that she knew.
Yeah.
That kind of.
Yeah. That adds a layer of tension between the two of them that they hadn't had yet. And Dina come out and giving her the good luck bracelet. Karma works, like, I'm just saying. But that's Dina's sort of, kind of, I guess, acceptance of it, even though she's still maybe struggling with it. She at least accepts what, because she does actually love Ellie.
Yeah. Well, and this is one of those times when I just feel like if Ellie had just given her a little more information, just one more piece of information, Dina probably wouldn't have reacted the way she did.
Yeah.
If she had just said, you know, she found out like literally the night before they left.
They left, yeah.
So, you know, or the night before Joel died.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like she was walking around with this information for the last
Yeah.
4 years or whatever, and it's like I couldn't see how Dina would really hold that against
It
her.
is. It has been a few months. It has been a few months from getting from Jackson to Seattle. It's not like it's not like years.
No.
But
I mean that Ellie knew what Joel did.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Literally, she knew
still, yeah.
for not even a day. Like she had it confirmed by Joel
Yeah.
on the porch.
Yeah.
And the next morning, Joel went out, and then she went out, and then Joel got killed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like Ellie had this information like before they even got into Jackson that Joel said, "Yeah, I killed him for you,"
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
Ellie just walked around with this information
Yeah.
and never said anything to anybody. So it's like I don't really know why Dina would hold that against her.
My only thought is because Dina loved Joel, maybe not as much as Ellie, but very much.
But I don't understand why that's Ellie's fault.
I don't
for not telling.
I don't think. Yeah,
Dina.
But if I were to sit here and tell you something that I learned a couple of weeks ago, and I'm still processing it, and I tell you your first initial reaction is to pull back and go, "Why didn't you tell me already? Why are you just now telling me?" You would have had a moment to think like you. That's why I think it was important that they showed her giving her the necklace, the bracelet, because in the moment it was a lot for Dina to take it.
Yeah,
and so your initial reaction at that moment is, of course, just to pull away.
Yeah.
And so I get all of that.
Yeah.
And then it was Dina coming back and giving her the bracelet, like still processing, still dealing.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, she's pregnant and got a hole in her leg.
Yeah.
And so there's all of that going on too. But then she's also like, here's a good luck charm, come back, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So but I really loved what Isabella has been doing with Dina, like all the way through. Like I love that they've spent the time with Dina, that she has more than just Ellie. Like in the game, it's just, and they talk about her and Jesse a little bit, but you don't get to see her with interacting with Joel very much, and like there's another layer of intimacy, friendship, familiarity with all of those characters, and so that gives a little bit more depth to Dina, and especially with the episode when she talked about killing the raiders who attacked her mom and her sister.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of hinted at the game, but not really addressed in the game. So I really did appreciate like what they're doing with all that. When Jesse dies, and Tommy is held at gunpoint by Abby after Ellie had killed Owen and Mel, Ellie finally has that realization: nobody else needs to die. It's me. It's like I'm the one who did all this stuff. It's me. You need to point the gun at me. Let them go. And they cut to black, sharp cut to black, and a gunshot. And then we wake. Abby wakes up.
I don't think you get a gunshot. Abby turns the gun to Ellie. Ellie says, "Wait, no," and then it just goes black. I don't think you get a gunshot.
There's a loud noise.
Oh, okay.
There's
All
a
right.
loud noise.
Okay.
Whatever. I know what happens. There's a loud noise.
Okay.
But it fades back into light, and it's Abby getting woken up by Martinez, and she walks out into the Seahawks stadium where the WLF set up a farm.
Yeah.
That's the best that stadium has ever looked. We're not Seahawks fans around here. But then the screen, it says Seattle Day 1. And I've been talking about in the game, you go back and forth between Seattle Day 1, Seattle Day 2, Seattle Day 3. And you got to go back and you play a bunch as Abby, and then you go back and play as Ellie. And then you go back and play as Abby. You get Abby's point of view of the same things that are going on. Okay. And whenever you play as Abby, you start questioning your hatred for her for killing Joel.
Yeah.
And so I 100% have my hackles up and my sword at the ready. I love this decision. Season 3, most of the season is going to be Seattle Day 1, 2, and 3 from Abby's point of view.
Yep.
And now you all get to deal with our emotions as the game players of spending all of this time with Abby after she just did the most horrendous thing possible. And to a character that we all loved. And so now you all get to deal with that. You think you're struggling with the black and white and gray and everything that's going on right now. It's going to be even worse next season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I love that decision. That's why I wanted to talk about some of the decisions that they're making, some of the conversations that are going on online, that people are kind of missing the point. You need to watch the post show and you need to listen to the podcast. Because there's so much information being dropped about why they are making the decisions that they're making.
If you are complaining, you need to watch.
Yeah.
Don't come back and say, I shouldn't have to watch all this extra stuff just to understand the series. You don't.
You don't. 100% you don't.
Are a person who played the game and you don't like the decisions that they made or have questions about the decisions that they made, watch the after show or listen to the podcast and they can explain it. You may still not like it, but at least you'll have their explanation.
And that if you listen to all that stuff and why they are making the decisions that they made, like Abby going to getting captured by the Seraphites, they wanted to do that in the game. They actually even laid it. Ellie, God.
Ellie being captured by the Seraphites.
Spoilers. They wanted to do that in the game. They actually laid it out, outlined it out, wrote it, and realized they just couldn't make it work the way they wanted to do it.
They talk about that, yeah.
And so I liked that there's some stuff that they couldn't do in the game, but they're able to come back around and do it here in the show.
Yep.
And so I've been loving this series. I've been loving what they've been doing. They are hitting all the emotional beats that I want them to hit from the game to the show. Now, I want to ask you, as a non-game player, has the show been more impactful this season than last season? Because we talked about the final episode last season where I couldn't stop talking about all the things that happened and kind of hyping it up. And then at the end, you were like, yeah, it was good, but I wasn't as hyped as maybe you were.
Yeah.
So this time around, I've been trying to control myself. It's not going well.
Yeah. I mean, I listening to how they did it in the game versus how they're doing the show, I appreciate the show, I think, better. Like the going back and forth, I think, would be too confusing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I've liked this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as much as I've been kind of bringing up the stuff online, I think overall it's doing very well. Although IMDb, this episode, it was only a 6.9.
It's been out for almost 2 hours.
But I also agree with that, but I also understand why people may be butt up against this one, because this doesn't feel like a finale. This feels like...
Well, it's not a finale.
Well, but people are still stuck in the season finales need to be the epic conclusion of this part of the should be an epic conclusion of the story. And then if they get another season, great.
But they already had season 3. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't know that people think that way anymore.
On a majority, I think people have learned that there's a new model of streaming and everything. But I think overall, there's still that group of casual followers of television who are watching this show going, oh, it's really good. The performances are great. It looks amazing. But why didn't we not get a big final battle? Why did we not get the Battle of Jackson in the final episode?
Yeah.
Why? Because network television has told me that's how a big finale is supposed to be, and it's fair. And if you want to complain about the stuff with Abby, Ellie, I caught myself this time. Ellie being in the boat being a little too dark. I can get behind that conversation. It's supposed to be dark. It's dark in the game, but it was probably too dark.
Well, for like in here where we live, 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, the sun's still out.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it makes it hard to see really dark scenes.
Yeah. And until we get a basement where we can close everything off, it's just got to be that way. But overall, I think the season has been very, very, very well done, and I am excited for season 3.
Yeah.
There has been no word when they're going to start filming. Craig and Neil have both said that they've got season 3 figured out. Craig is writing all of it with help from Neil and Haley and all that kind of stuff, and so I'm assuming they'll be filming probably fairly soon. They don't have to deal with Pedro's schedule anymore,
Right.
and so that helps a lot.
Yep.
And because Ellie is not going to be a big character in the second season, they don't have to work around Bella's schedule either.
Right.
I'm sure that they have a plan for everybody else.
I would think late next year or the beginning of 2027.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So, I'm very happy. So we have one more season finale coming with Doctor Who next Saturday, and we're not going to be here for it. So that's going to be very interesting.
Maybe Sunday.
Maybe we'll figure something out. So let us know what you thought of The Last of Us Season 2, the series overall, in the comments down below. Please be very nice. I'm willing to have a very civilized conversation about this show. If you're going to start talking about some other things, I have the band hammer. If you're on the Spotify side, follow us here, share with your friends. You're on YouTube. Hit subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications because we're doing all kinds of other stuff. And follow us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and I'm waiting for the Geekiary when I'm not trying to pack up my house. Links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.